Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Josey. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of Badassery herself, the real Josey. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Josey, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's Badassery Bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is the importance of vetting possible business partners. In real estate investing, the right partnership can accelerate your success, but the wrong one can drag you down fast. Just because someone shares your ambition doesn't mean they share your values, work ethic, or financial responsibility. Before you shake hands on a partnership, take the time to vet potential business partners like a true badass investor. Here are 6 ways to vet a business partner like a pro. Number 1, align on goals and vision. Are you both in this for the long haul, or are they looking for a quick flip while you want to build a rental empire? Make sure your goals align before moving forward. Number 2, evaluate their track record. Past behavior is the best predictor for future actions. Have they successfully completed deals before? Do they follow through on their commitments? Check references and verify their experience. Number 3, assess financial stability. Money issues can quickly sink a partnership. Ensure your partner is financially responsible, has good credit, and isn't drowning in personal debt that could put your business at risk. Number 4, define roles and responsibilities. Clarity is key. Who's bringing the deals? Who's managing rehabs? Who's handling the finances? Outlining expectations up front prevents misunderstandings and conflict down the road. Number 5, discuss conflict resolution. This is huge. Disagreements will happen. How you handle them is what matters. Make sure you both agree on how to resolve conflicts, whether through mediation, voting, or other methods. Number 6, put it in writing. A solid partnership agreement is non-negotiable. Clearly outline financial contributions, profit splits, exit strategies, and dispute resolution. If they are hesitant to put things in writing, consider that a red flag. So, a strong business partner can help you scale faster, but the wrong one can cost you time, money, and peace of mind. Take your time, do your due diligence, and remember, real estate is a long game. A badass investor doesn't rush into partnerships. They choose wisely and build empires with the right people by their side. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. Today's guest is Chris Prefontaine, chairman and founder of Smart Real Estate Coach, a 4-time best-selling author, and a 3-time Inc. 5000 honoree. Through his Wicked Smart community, he has helped investors across North America complete hundreds of successful transactions. Having navigated major challenges like 9/11, the 2008 crash, and COVID, Chris re-engineered his business to thrive in any market. As the host of the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast, ranked in the top 0.5% globally, he's here to share his expertise. So welcome to the show, Chris Prefontaine. Happy to have you.
What? I don't know what I can do after all those amazing openings you just read.
It's my badassery bestowment. I trademarked that, so that's got to go everywhere. But so great to have you on the show. And we chatted briefly and I'm like, Chris, I've never heard of you before, but just a quick Google search. You have amazing reviews, especially your coaching program. And I, having worked for a coaching program, I respect that tremendously. And you've been in this game a while. So one thing I want to dive into is you specialize in buying and selling on terms. Can you break that down and what that means and why it's a game changer for investors? I would like to start with a loaded question. Go for it. Let's hear it.
Yeah. No, awesome. Awesome stuff. So for us, terms means without banks, without gobs of your own cash. It basically means we buy three ways: owner financing, and we niche that down to free and clear owners, no mortgages. So owner financing, lease purchase, and subject to existing mortgages. Those are the only three ways we buy. None of those require you to sign your name to the dotted line and pledge all your assets personally, because I learned that the hard way during the crash. That's it. That's how we buy.
Wow. And so no hard money.
No.
And no private money?
No.
All
money.
I love it.
Money. Let me disclose. So lease purchase, our agreements are built in with $10, right? So I call that no money. If you're buying subject to or owner financing, you might have some transfer tax, but I'm saying not gobs of money. So you're talking $10 to maybe a couple thousand, not tens of thousands.
Good. Thank you for clarifying that. So how long does it take? Because I was telling you, my avatar, the person listening to the show, is one who is trying to get out of the rat race and buying through terms, like you said. How long does it typically take for someone to build a sustainable income using these strategies?
Yeah, so that's kind of loaded too, without me. So here's why I say that. No particular order. Think about it. Like everyone says, how quickly can I do a deal, right? Or how quickly can I exit? And more to your question, well, I don't know, because everybody has a different skill set, different disciplines or lack of when they come to the table, baggage like I had after the crash, right? We all have it. It's just a matter of where and when. So I'll give you just some metrics from the community, because that more will tell the story. We track what's called time to first deal, because you've been in the coaching business. There's so much crap out there where they just want to sell stuff, where we want to do deals, because if you do deals, people don't quit, right? So our average time to first deal runs around 150 days right now, down from 180, and that varies, but we don't lop off anomalies. Like that's the person who says, hey, I don't care, I'm going to take my time. And it's also the person breaking records doing it in 30 days. It's the whole average. It's a fair average. Secondly, our deals per deal with all three paydays, which we can talk about, runs like 45 grand to 350 grand. So they're not small deals, right? So having said that, depends what their palette is. Like I'll give you a quick story. Rick worked for the government. He's one of our coaches now, so he comes to mind. He worked for the government 30 years. 30. He tried flipping, he dabbled in wholesaling, but because he ran I don't know how many employees, crazy, like 140 or 50, he was busy. So it's hard to integrate those other niches. And he came with us. We put a very specific plan to escape the W-2, which is what we do so well now. All our coaches have done it. In 2 years, he left his W-2, and he had a nice, healthy salary. It wasn't like he was hurting. He was just looking for bigger, better, and retirement. So that's a long answer to your question. I hope I got pieces of that point.
I love every aspect of that. And I love that he became a coach as well, because in this industry, you learn, you do, and then you want to give back. So I love that you brought him on as a coach. Can you share another success story of a student?
Yeah, Mike comes to mind, because these guys are all corporate. So I love it when you said, hey, most of my audience is driving to work. So Mike was corporate. Mike drove an hour each way.
Oof.
Mike started with me back in, gosh, he's been with me for a while, 17, I think it was. And he was looking, I'll back up in his story. He was looking for franchises. I'll never forget. I didn't know him. We never met. He heard me on a show like this, and he called me and said, Chris, I'm looking for franchises. I got a question about one of your programs. Why is it so cheap? And I said, Mike, I'm going to tell that story forever. Thank you very much. So Mike would work for a produce company where they would a train load of say pistachios, right, and vegetables and nuts. They'd be going on the train. He'd have to sell it before it got there. That type of pressure.
Wow.
So he did that 12-hour days, ungodly hours. His plan also was 2 years. I think we did it in 26 or 27 months. Again, a really healthy salary, just a crappy lifestyle. So we replaced that. Mike became a coach, right? So these guys know how to do it. It's pretty predictable if you're willing to put in the time.
And I love that. And you touched briefly on 9/11, COVID, these things that have happened that really kind of messed with the market. So Many sellers feel stuck due to market conditions. So how does your approach give them more options for financial freedom?
Yeah, the more stuck they are, by the way, which is what happened in March of 20, I'll never forget it, the more they need a guide. And the more they need a guide, the more they need creative financing. That's all we are, right? It's creative financing, what I described earlier. So how does it help them? Well, let's think about it. So owner financing, there's different sides of the coin here. Owner financing, we deal with free and clear owners. They have no mortgage. So are they hurting financially? Nope. They just
So quick question. I don't mean to cut you off, but you're only going after people who have completely paid off their mortgage.
on the owner financing side is one of
Okay.
our niche lists. Yes,
Gotcha.
you can stumble upon them, but if you want to look and get more, you have a nice pond to fish in because, as you probably know, roughly speaking, I'll be generic here. There's about a third of the properties in the United States that are free
Right.
and clear. Okay, well, that's a pretty cool pond to fish in. So when you're talking to them, I'll use my building. I think the answers are easier if I give examples. So my building in 18, I bought it, and the owner had literally a 4x8 sign on a busy road saying owner financing. And he said, Chris, I got realtors coming here going, I got offers. I have full. No, he didn't want a cash offer. Why? Because he wants estate planning, and tax planning. So for those reasons, that he couldn't get it from the conventional market. They weren't paying his price and doing owner financing. We did. Let's go the other side of the coin. Someone's hurting financially. They need out tomorrow from some financial relief. How can we help them? Well, there's no commission. We can act quickly, and they don't have people traipsing through their house. During COVID, that was huge. We were doing, one of our coaches was doing $1 million properties in Southern California because they didn't want people in their house. So all kinds of ways to look at how we benefit sellers, but I could do another book on that one.
I'm glad you brought up COVID because I remember those days. It was a great marketing tool to say, hey, no showings. So they love that. But to me, it's you brought up the gentleman who had a financial situation where we as investors, to buy on seller financing, on subject to, et cetera, we positions ourselves as problem solvers. So what are some other ways that we can solve their problem as a seller?
Yeah, another one came today from one of the coaches. Let me say it. Short sales. They're starting to pop up everywhere now, right?
Yes, they are.
Things are repeating. So 2 of our students in just 1 week had this. So I jumped on the mastermind call to explain to everyone what to do. And so, okay, you have a seller that is upside down and they might have arrears too now, right? They're in trouble. And a realtor, I have nothing against realtors. I used to be one years ago, but the realtor is going to get paid, as we all know, from the bank, regardless of what your ramifications as a seller are. So here we have a seller that instead of getting a short sale ding on their credit, can just simply sell the house to us subject to the existing mortgage. And if we have to catch up arrears, as long as it's not like 3 years of arrears, right? Because we've seen those. As long as think about it, the credit heals itself. They don't get a ding and they're rid of their headache. Instead of a realtor just wanting to get after that for the commission and then leaving who knows what for recourse after that. And that, again, nothing against any of those parties. It's just better for the seller if they do it with us as an investor.
And well said. And I grew up with a mother who is a realtor, so that was the only way I knew to purchase houses growing up and even the start of my real estate career. And one of the things was buy houses with no money out of pocket. I'm like, what are these people talking about? So when speaking to homeowners, how do you convince them that this is a legit way to actually buy houses? Because my mother would not ever believe this, ever, rest her soul. But how do you have that conversation with the sellers and what's the benefit for them?
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. So you kind of alluded to a piece of it, and that is we're solving problems, right?
Right.
So we're really doing one of two things. We're either solving the problem, like you said, or we're bringing them something the conventional market can't in the case of my building that I did, right? So when you have a normal conversation with a seller, you're looking for either one of those two things. So when I talked to the building owner, what was his thing? His thing was, I don't want to get whacked on taxes day one. And I want to leave my wife and my son. He's since passed away, so I think he knew something was going on. I want them to have a cash flow stream, not a building headache, right? So you don't have to convince if you solve for X, whatever their thing is, right? Let me think of another one. Couple near Cape Cod here, a resort area. Couple gets divorced. One's on the deed, one's on the mortgage. They fall behind. Not too bad. They got us in time, $4,100. The realtor couldn't sell it. It expired. We went in, cured the $4,100. Bought the house subject to their credit repaired like within 6 months because we're making the payments on time. versus a foreclosure that'll haunt them for, I don't know, 7 years, whatever it is now.
Right.
There's so many, there's hundreds of different ways but those are stories I can think of recently that we've done with sellers. So it's never convincing. It's like, think of this. Why do people go to an attorney, auto body, dentist, accountant, keep going? They go for one of those reasons that we said, solve a problem or accomplish something the market can't bring them, right? Same with us. So you have an intelligent conversation like you would with your neighbor. Hey, I noticed you're selling, or I noticed it didn't sell. Where are you going? If it had sold, really. So what if it doesn't sell again? What's going to happen? And then immediately you get their problem or their goal, right? When you say, what are you going to do if it doesn't by X date? There's the script. That's a nugget just for talking to people.
And having that conversation is very, very important. So we talked about how you have survived downturns, economic downturns like 9/11, 2008 crash, and COVID. What strategies help investors thrive in any market, up, down, or flat?
It would be, I mean, I'm biased, so it would be the 3 ways we buy, right? Because there's one constant real estate, and you've been at it and you've been coaching, so you know this, and that is it's going to constantly change. If we know that, then it's not what the media says, like, oh, now you don't buy because it's doing. No, you buy all the time. You just will fish in a different pond and use different strategies. And the 3 strategies we use are perfect. You just have to know when to fit those. I call it putting it in the right bucket, if you will, in my book.
Okay. And then what are the biggest mistakes investors make when the market shifts?
Well, the number one is listen to the media, in my opinion, because they don't know. They're still screaming that this is going to be like in 08. I did a whole video on YouTube about this because it's nothing like 08. It's like one thing that stands out as far as the media when I say that is the inventory from the 08 crisis was so overbuilt, like it was obnoxious. I used to have the numbers off the top of my head if you Google it, and now that's not the issue. We're undersupplied, if anything. So it's just don't listen to the media. It's the biggest mistake you can do. What you can do to fix that is find someone. You alluded to it in your number 2. I wrote it down. Like you said, make sure someone has done deals or something like that. You said, well, same thing with when you're coaching, find someone that's been through these environments that change constantly and go, hey, let me latch on to you. Let me lock arms. What do you do? Because the only 2 times I had challenges, I'll call it, one being the 08 and one being early 90s, I looked back and I went, ooh, that's scary. The only 2 times I had trouble in my career were when I didn't have a coach. In hindsight, I look back and go, well, that was crazy of me. So make sure you do that. It's the best thing you can do to not make as many. It's not to get them no mistakes, but not make as many.
Very well said. And stalking you online, which was very fun, by the way, you trademarked something called 3 paydays. Can you explain what that means and how the 3 paydays system works?
Yeah. So remember I said went through the crash, had to decide, okay, no more banks, no more signing personally. Well, one of the other things was no more getting paid once on a deal. And I call it like the old way now. So I used to build a home, get paid. Great. It was good money, but then you got to go do it again and again and again. You might as well keep your job, frankly, in hindsight now. So the 3 paydays is how we exit. We exit on a rent to own for the buyer. Unlike a lot of the things you see publicly about rent to own, our default rate is about 2 to 10%. The default rate with most people, and they'll say it publicly, is more like 80%. They don't care if the buyer gets to the finish line. It's nuts. So we want to make sure we exit on rent to own with a true buyer who just needs time. And here's how the paydays work to get back to your question. Payday 1, they're a true buyer. They still can't get a loan yet. They're not financeable. So they bring in a down payment. That's non-refundable. I'll give you some metrics on what these sizes of these are too. Payday 2, we're paying something on the underlying mortgage or to the seller directly, and we're getting something more than that from the tenant buyer while they occupy the home, while they're getting mortgage ready. That delta is ours to keep. Payday 2. So you do a new property, you launch an immediate hit, then you launch a monthly cash flow stream. That's pretty cool for any business owner. And then payday 3 is really neat because it's the markup plus any and all principal accumulated throughout the term of that deal. That's pretty powerful. And that's how you get such a high number that we said earlier, 45 grand to 350 grand per deal, all 3 paydays, because of that power of that principal pay down mainly.
Okay, Chris, you said that very fast and I tried to latch on. So give us an example of a project start to finish using the 3 payday system.
Sure. Let's use, I'll use an oceanfront home that came to mind immediately. I don't know why. It's in Massachusetts because we already sold out of this. $945,000 home. Now, we broke the mold before I tell you the 3 paydays. We broke the mold on no money. We put $8,000 down in this house. I remember $8,000 on $1 million house. Not too bad, but we did that to make sure that the owner could move and do their thing. Okay, payday one, because of the size of the house, payday one was about $100,000. So the buyer comes to the table going, hey, I just started my own business, so I'm not financeable now, even though I have good credit and good money. They need, for your listeners to know, they need 2 years of seasoning. Like if you're driving to work right now and you're going to go start your own business tomorrow, you're not financeable yet with a bank for a mortgage. You need 2 years of what they call seasoning.
I gotta stop you for, I'm confused. So you are purchasing this waterfront property, or you already own it and you're finding a buyer for it?
Yeah, I went past the buying it. We bought it owner financing. I was going right to the 3 paydays. I
Thank
go back to buy too.
I was like, what is happening? Okay, so keep going. I'm sorry. Now I'm on the same page. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, you bet.
I love how you talk fast. I'm a fast talker too. I moved from Miami to North Carolina. I had to really slow down my speed for bless your heart.
Like the cow watching the train. Like
I'm like, who you call ma'am? Anyway, keep going. Go ahead.
So payday one, that buyer comes to the table for the house that we have and says, okay, I have 100 down. I was going to go buy a house and get a mortgage. I can't. So I like your rent to own program. Great. Then we're paying the seller for the owner financing $2,500 a month. I'm going to throw a kink in this. Principal only, never interest. Principal only. We'll talk about that later. That's why it's
terms
from them $3,600. So it's like $1,100 a month. That's our payday two. And then payday three was, picture this now, it's 4 years later. So you had $2,500 a month coming off of principal when I paid the seller. So that's 30 grand a year times 4 years, right? So we're at 100 and something grand there. We had the spread every month of 1,100 for 4 years. That's another 50 or so. So that total deal, when you work that all out, was over $200,000 deal.
Boom. Thank you for slowing that down for me. I was like, what? So that was awesome. Very, very well said. So anything else you want to throw in there? Because you were talking about terms, and is it a 30-year note? How are you structuring this?
So typically, my building was different. It was 20 years, but typically that house was pretty typical. It was a 4-year, 48-month term. Unless we extend, there's all kinds of advance, but it's a 4-year term. So what happens at the end of the 4 years? Well, that buyer who we accepted based on the criteria that we screened them with said that they could be mortgage ready within 2 or 3 years. I'm giving you generic criteria. So that's what happened. They got their end loan, their conventional mortgage, cashed out our purchase with the tenant buyer, which allowed us to pay off the balloon on the note to the seller.
Beautiful. That is super sweet. And tell us about this house, because I'm actively looking for a waterfront property. I'm just curious.
It was sweet. It was up on probably 200 feet up on a bluff overlooking an open ocean. And here's the punchline. This is interesting. She was a realtor that we bought it from. She couldn't sell it.
Oh my goodness. And then you stepped in to save the day. I love that. So my next line of questioning is basically for my listeners and getting out of the 9 to 5 through real estate. So how did you get involved in real estate? And that does not look like smart water that you're drinking, by the way. What you got in there?
There's some stuff in there. It's my hot dog water.
Just don't give off hot dog water vibes. Anyway, go ahead. So how'd you get involved in real estate?
I got thrown out. Well, thank you for repeating. Okay. So mine goes way back. I've been at this since 91. So it's like 33 and a quarter years. So I grew up in a...
I graduated high school in 91. So you saying... Anyway, you just made me feel so old. Go ahead.
Hate myself too. I grew up in a welding supply industrial gas family business, not real estate.
Wow.
But how I got kind of exposed to it, if you will, is he would build his own brick and mortar buildings and lease them back to the company. And I remember being around probably 10 or 12 years old, and he explained it to me. I went, well, I don't get it. You're the same person, but now I understand he built it and he leased it back to his LLC and that whole bit, but I didn't understand that. So that was my exposure. He would also on the side find pieces of land, engineer them and flip them. And that was just, he'd be toying with that. So a lot of his friends would toying with that, and I was around it. So I really got the itch for real estate early on. Went to college, but really had the itch to do real estate early on. He sold his company in 91. I had about 2 or 3 homes under construction then with a partner. And I was supposed to be the general manager of his company. And in about a week and a half or 2 weeks, whatever it was, they fired me. So I was left with no job, no, they gave me a car and a severance package for a month, but I had nothing, and my kids were 1 and 2. They're like, okay, you're done. So that was full bore real estate, burn all the bridges.
No kidding. And you mentioned you had a partner back then. So my Badassery bestowment was about partnerships. And I'm torn because my partner I am married to. I share a bathroom sink with him. So you have to be really, really invested in this person to do it, because on the flip side, as a coach, and I'm sure you have seen this, so many go south. So tell us a little bit about this business partner, how that went.
Okay, that one did not go well. So I'll talk about that. So your opening was perfectly done, and I took 2 of the points down to just say another context. But let me go this part. This partnership with Smart Real Estate Coach is family, right? So it's been better. But that partnership did not go well towards the end. When things tightened up, the true personalities come out. It did not go well, did not end well, it was stressful, and it all worked out. But it's a hassle. So your points were like the Bible. I mean, if you as a listener, listen to Jen's points for sure, because they were huge. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And I even do a presentation called I Slept with My Business Partner. And there's still things that you have to do with your business partner. So all right. So going back to leaving 9 to 5, and you really had no choice in the matter. But as a coach, what do you think is the first step in making that transition successfully? How do you coach people to do this?
Okay. So it's become quite predictable for us now. And right. So this is the key. So like anything else, I don't care what business we're happen to be talking about real estate, but like anything else, to move from W-2 to entrepreneur is not easy. So there's never a cakewalk. Let's be honest, everybody. Entrepreneurship is hard. That's why the upside's so good, right? So what do? You find someone who did it. So people in our community go, who should I speak to? Go talk to one of the coaches. All 3 of them did it. Get a plan with them. So what do we do with Rick to help him do his? We put him in a conference room. We had 3 or 4 of us. We had the large stickies, and you put them on the wall, and we mapped out his 2 years. And then we said, Rick, if you let us hold you accountable, we'll get you there. Boom, like almost to the day. Same with Mike. So short answer, find someone who did it. I don't care what, if you're gonna open a restaurant, what do? Find someone who successfully did that. So it's the same with leaving your job. Community or a person who already did it, ask them to guide you, but then you got to put the blinders on. You can't get cold feet or shiny object syndrome, right? Oh, no, I want this business over. Oh, no, I want this. No, you got to put the blinders on for 3 years and get after this, and you'll have a good experience.
I like that. There's a saying that I actually posted throughout my house when we first started, and I hope I get it right. So it's entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. Yeah. So I had that everywhere. It was on yellow cardstock, and I had one by the sink, and it has little splotches on. I digress. Anyway, I like though what you just said. It was a 2-year plan. And same thing when you were talking about your examples before that, it was several months, and it's different for everyone. But why 2-year mark for you? I'm just curious.
That was coincidentally both of their goals. They both tend to be super, super conservative. So this is a good question, because some people don't have the need to have that like solid. They might have money in the bank and go, hey, just give me a couple deals and I can get on my way with this. But they were both ultra conservative and said, I need to see this many deals in the hopper. When I say in the hopper for a reason, like when we do a deal, you don't get all that day one, the payday stretch, right? So they need to see that on a spreadsheet, and Rick in particular, because I call him engineer brain. He's an engineer, so everything has to be mapped out. So once he saw that, in his case, it was 5 deals. They were all 6-figure deals. So he saw $500,000 in the hopper, so to speak. And he said, done, I can give my notice. So everybody's different. There's been people, there was an elevator salesman that came in with us. So he was good with people, but had no real estate experience. He did it in 9 months, accumulated 3 paydays worth like $800,000 in 9 months. Like you can do it faster. Those 2 came to mind because they're coaches.
Nice. And here is a loaded question, and one personally from me. So as a coach, what mindset shifts, this is huge, are essential for someone moving from an employee to a real estate entrepreneur?
A couple things come to mind. This could be a deep one. No order for priority, just as I think of them. One is the shift is, first of all, it is all mindset. You said what mindset? It's all mindset. Like I
Yes.
can teach anyone a deal. You can teach anyone a deal. It is the mindset. One is, I think, expectations, Jen, comes to mind, because it also is one of the reasons that people fail in real estate. Like your expectations have to be managed. You've got to weigh in your baggage, your skill sets, or lack of your discipline or lack of. You have to be realistic with that and do like a gut check. Like, here's where I am. I'm honest with it. Here's what I need to do to get there. And if you do that and you have, and then secondly, expectations managed. Secondly, have someone hold you accountable and be open to that. It's not always easy. Those would be the toughest things. It's easy for people to say it, but when they get into month, a student comes to mind. He got his first deal today. Sorry, his second. He's been at it 19 months, but he also has a lot of challenges going on. A wife with stage 4 cancer, a dog passed, a lot of tough stuff. So I said, wow, bravo. Like, what a good job you did. So everyone has to acknowledge where they are. He did. And he's like, I know this is going to be hard. So if they do that and they hold each other accountable, or let them hold them accountable, I think those two things are huge. I don't know what your thought is on that, but
Huge. Absolutely. And I also think of it as a comfort zone because you are automatically getting that paycheck coming in. You have your health insurance. So pulling people out of that comfort zone. And that to me has been a challenge as a coach. So how do you get people to push them over the edge a little bit?
the word that comes to mind there is exposure and
Good.
association. Association, I think, matters a lot more than people realize. Like, this is why community is so big, right? In our community, there's many good communities. Here, example, someone says, Chris, can I chat with you about your program? Sure. So they talk to me, they go, hey, I want to leave my job. This is my background. I go, okay, go talk to this person in our community. Like, I'll just match them up with someone, because you can get caught in that confirmation bias, right? Where you're looking for a reason not to make it work. You can find them too. You can go find people that go, nope, that's stupid. Why would you leave your job? You don't have security anymore. Or you can find someone that goes, no, your job is your biggest risk, dummy. You can lose that tomorrow. So you can look for the confirmation bias to make you go the other way, or you can look for the person who will drag you in the direction you want, in my opinion.
And that is a great segue into talking about you as a coach. And you've built the Wicked Smart communities to help investors succeed. And you mentioned exposure, but I would contribute that to more hands-on experience. So why is hands-on experience critical when choosing a real estate coach?
Well, it's huge because every deal is different.
Yes.
And you mentioned some companies, I think it was off air. Look, there's so many seminars in courses that are going to give you the perfect model and the perfect warm and fuzzy and fluffy feel. Then you go do your first deal and you go, whoa, I didn't know all these things could happen. So what do we do? Like, I wrote about it in my book, and I had one of my competitors criticize me and say, why would you tell people what can go wrong? One of the chapters is yes, but what can go wrong? So it's important to be hands-on and interactive. So you have a coach. I got a text today. The guy said, I'm brand new in your community. I have a deal. I said, great, get on the call tonight, because a coach is going to help them through that and be interactive. And I remember I had Brian Tracy on my podcast.
Nice.
But he was like 82 years old. He said, interactive learning is by far the most effective and fastest. And that's what we do. I didn't, do that because we've been doing this for years. And then the interactive learning allows them to speed up to growth, which allows them to do a deal faster, which allows them to be happy, which allows them never to quit, right? Or gives them the benefit of never quitting.
Thank you for saying all of that. And Brian Tracy, ooh, that is awesome. So if there's a listener out there looking for a coaching program right now, when they are selecting a mentor or a coaching program, what are some red flags they should watch out for?
Two things come to mind. One is someone who did not go through a bunch of cycles. Like, there are people I know that are coaching that started doing deals like 2 years ago. That's scary. Like, you might be good now, but I just don't know how you're going to react to, okay, Jen comes in and says, hey, I got all these headaches, or the market's doing this. They're going to go, oh, I kind of never did that. Like, that's scary. Secondly, there's more, but secondly, I think it's super important that the person or community you're following has similar values to you, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs. One of our equity partners went through just a period in their life where they had enormous success, but they lost a spouse, had a child OD. Like, why? Because you were so engulfed in what you're doing with the business. So make sure that that person is what you kind of, from a well-rounded standpoint, can relate to. Or that's why we're a big family. You mentioned it because you looked around. So we tend to attract people that go, hey, I'd love to have my kids work with me, or hey, similar values. So very, very important. I'm going to add a third. The third would be outdated material. Like we painfully just went through a fourth iteration. So we call it our Quantum Leap System 4.0 since 16. That's like almost every 2 years. That, you know how hard that is to go through an entire course and redo it? It's painful.
Yes. I'm going to add a fourth. If anyone is suggesting a get rich quick scheme, run the other direction. So that is the one for me, because that is just never going to happen. The ones that get me are, all you got to do is wholesale. And they start with wholesaling, and you just got to get a deal under contract. It's easy. It doesn't cost anything.
All the JOB, in my opinion.
Oh my goodness. And it costs so much to market. I mean, you're leaving out a huge portion there. So my education program, I'm just going to touch on this for a second, because I love that you work with your family, is they exposed you to so many different things. And that's like your chapter in your book, where what could go wrong. So I knew a little bit about short-term rentals. I knew a little bit about growing my rental portfolio, multifamily, things like that. So just a little bit to be dangerous, but then know who to contact to help you through that. And you also mentioned before about coaching, and the 2 times where you were toughest in your career were when you didn't have a coach. And another thing for that, if you're a listener out there and you can't afford a coach right now, which by the way, find the money, because in your reviews, Chris, people said he's a little bit pricier. I'm just going to be honest here, a little bit higher than some of them, but the people make back the money. Every review I read about your program was, who cares how expensive it is, because in the end, you're going to make that tenfold because of the level of it. Yes, it was on Bigger Pockets, by the way. And so so if you don't have a coach, I'm not trying to give you an excuse to get out of it, because it's very important to have a coach, but get an accountability group, get people, because you did mention this and I just wanted to reinforce it, is being accountable to somebody is also going to push you and hopefully get you to getting more deals, and then you can pay for that coach. So, this is the last question about having to do with coaching, but what's a lesson you learned the hard way that now shapes you as a coach for others?
It would be there's many pieces, but the piece of the crash that taught me, no, you probably shouldn't be signing personally on all these loans to buy real estate, because you are pledging everything you work for, or your family worked for. So, it's good when someone calls me. Recently, a guy called me and said, on one of my calls about our community, said, hey, I bought 4 properties. I'm kind of limited now, because you and I know you can't buy 30 properties with a bank. They're not going to allow you to do that conventionally. So he said, I have good credit though. And I said, it doesn't matter. You need to not put your credit at risk. And let me show you why. And so I did that too conventionally. That's what people think they do, but that's a big lesson and easy to coach that now. And then they have the light bulb go on.
Thank you for saying that. And banks. Who likes banks anyways? All right. So I want to know, what's it like working with your family? Who's in this coaching business? I want to hear about it, because people just spoke so highly of it. So tell me who are the coaches?
Yeah. So it went from, I'll give you a quick timeline. So it went from me doing deals 12, 13 after the crash. And then someone locally from the War College, actually, a kid who had gone to Afghanistan like 2 or 3 tours, found me and said, hey, can you coach me before I go back to civilian life? I did. And then it started catching on organically. And then Nick, my son, joined me in 14. And then my daughter, Kayla, and son-in-law, Zach, joined me in 15. We were tiny then. The coaching business did, I don't know, 14 grand in 2014. So now fast forward, we've got about 15, maybe 20 employees around the country. Upwards of 5 million, not 14,000 in sales. And Zach's the CEO. Nick runs the entire buyer specialty side. So he coaches the coaches. And then the coaches were all not family. They came in just as students.
Very nice. And my last question here before we go to the second part of the podcast is, talk about loaded questions. What's the biggest real estate myth that you, Chris Prefontaine, would like to debunk?
Greatest myth? Well, that you need money to buy real estate. You said
yes.
It was like even your family goes, no, you can't do that. People still to this day, I'm like, hello.
Yes. Thank you for that. All right. So we are going to move to the second part of the podcast here, which is, What makes Chris Prefontaine a badass, which you are? And I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. Besides your own books, what is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Ray Dalio's Principle. I think it's just called Principles, if I'm not mistaken, but Google Ray Dalio, because it's like one you could go over and over and over. I love it. Ray Dalio.
I love those books that you read multiple times and then you get something different every single time. I love that.
Yeah,
all right.
depending on who you are, right?
Exactly. All right. The first A in badass is for advice. You've given us great advice, but what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It's got to be the coaching side. When I went through during the crash, not a mentor, but sort of a friend, business owner, past vendor of mine said, "Look, Chris, just find someone that's gone through what you just went through or worse and get some direction." Because I was floundering. That was key, especially then it was key.
And off topic to continue on this conversation, you aren't always with real estate coaches, because I just wrapped up a call right before this one it's called the Mic Drop Club. So shout out to the ladies. It's just for public speaking. And I'm like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to go for it. And so I'm trying to be more animated because I'm now doing video. But what are some other type of coaches that you have benefited from in your life?
Yeah, I've always had a coach of some sort, if not two or three. So health and mindset. So Dr. Amanda comes to mind for mindset. I've had her several times. We've exposed her to the community. Whenever we have a coach, we bring them to the community. Health by way of the naturopathic stuff. And I consider them my coach. I have three of them. So yeah, always, it just depends. Like each year I'll go, okay, next 6 months, what am I trying to accomplish? Let's go get that coach. So one coach I've been with since 17 was strictly for scaling, because as an entrepreneur, so this is good for the people who have jobs, I was good at hustling and getting to the million. And I'm not watering that down, but for years, till 17, it'd be just like, okay, get up earlier, do more follow-up, work longer, and you can get to a million. And again, I'm not trying to water that down, but you can as a solopreneur. It's to move beyond that and have a lifestyle. And that I credit elite entrepreneurs with that. And he was my single coach, and then his company grew big, and we're still with them. So yeah, always coaches.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because a lot of people think they only have to do with real estate investors, and there's NLP coaches out there. There's the whole gamut. I like that you did health and mindset. Health is the next one I need to get. So, all right, going back to my acronym here. So D is for drive. What drives you to be successful?
At this stage, my why, I'm big on having a why, is to create experiences that money can't buy. So you do have to create enough money and wealth to create things that money can't buy. And then for us right now, it's experience. I have two grandkids, and it is all about the experience, not the money at this point.
That is so true. All right. The second A in badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
So kind of combo with the business and personal is, and we're probably 90-something% there, and that is 100% not reliant on an income, so you can live passively, and then creating more of those exact stories in the community, right? So it's like you're growing successful entrepreneurs and letting them loose.
Very good. And someone who runs a coaching program, I'm sure this is important. So the first S in badass is for systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
We have, thankfully, because of elite entrepreneurs that I mentioned, we have a meeting rhythm, mission, values, and purpose. All that ties together to run the company here, because I never had experience doing that. So the teams really run it. And I would say the system would be the meeting rhythm that we have to do that, because it takes a little bit of discipline and a kind of rails to run on.
Perfect. All right. The final S in badass is for success. What does success mean to you?
It's going to tie back to the why, to be able to do the things that money can't buy, when you want, how you want, with who you want. That's in my book. What else could you want?
Exactly. Well, how do the listeners find you? You have your podcast. So let's quickly talk about your podcast. What's it called? How do they find it?
Yeah, smartrealestatecoachpodcast.com, or your favorite podcast app. You can find it. Smart Real Estate Coach.
And you do audio, but do you also do video as well? Or
we do now for the last several years. Yep. So on YouTube, there'll be a station channel just for that. Yep.
Very
YouTube, just type in Smart Real Estate Coach.
and your best-selling books. What books do you have out there, and how do they get them?
So the two, we'll give them away to your tribe too, if you want.
Nice.
They can just go to wickedsmartbooks.com/your name, Jen Josey.
Jen Josey with one N. And finally, most important, your coaching program. How do they find your coaching program? Yeah.
The books will get, the books and the links will get them there, but I'll tell you what we'll do. I have, if they don't mind my New England accent for another 55 minutes, they can go to smartrealestatecoach.com/masters class, and they'll get no one's there bugging you. You take it at your leisure. It's a replay of a workshop I did. I think that's going to be your best way to kind of peek behind the hood for free and say, is this something I want to pursue more or not? And so that's our gift. A couple gifts for you.
Well, it is a true testament to you, Chris, that you have made difference in so many people's lives. And I do truly appreciate you taking the time to be on my podcast and sharing with my listeners. So thank you so very much. Any parting words before we go?
Yeah, thank you for empowering the W-2 and helping them escape, because that's huge. It's life-changing. So thank you.
Huge. And that is all. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery, and don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josey by visiting therealjenjosey.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.